This is Tax Hack Pro. We don't just read the headlines, we audit them. If you want to know where your money is really going and why it never seems to come back, hit that subscribe button right now. We are following the cash flow that politicians try to hide. Imagine for a second that you won the lottery, not just a scratch-off, but the big one, $10 million, cash, tax-free. You could buy a mansion in Beverly Hills. You could hire a private staff of doctors, chefs, and therapists to follow you around for the rest of your life. You could invest it and live off the interest forever. Now, imagine taking that $10 million and setting it on fire. And then doing it again and again, 22 times. That is essentially what the state of California just did. According to a bombshell report that has sent shockwaves through the governor's office, California spent $236 million on a new homeless initiative called CareCourt. And after burning through $250 million of your tax money, do you know how many people were actually enrolled in the full court-ordered program during the reporting period? 22, not 22,000, not 2,000, 22. If you do the math, and here at Tax Hack Pro, we always do the math, that comes out to roughly $10.7 million per person. You get 10 million. You get 10 million. Everybody gets 10 million. It sounds like a bad opera sketch, but it's real life, and you are the one paying the bill. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are conducting a forensic audit of one of the most expensive bureaucratic failures in modern history. We are going to look at the promises, the spending, the excuses, and the terrifying reality of what happens when a government prioritizes learning over results. But before we dive into this financial black hole, do me a favor. Subscribe to Tax Hack Pro. We are building a community of taxpayers who are tired of being treated like an ATM. Hit that button so you don't miss our next investigation. Let's rewind the clock. It's 2022. Governor Gavin Newsom is on a media blitz. He is everywhere. He is signing bills with flourish. He is on 60 Minutes looking presidential, confident, and assured. He isn't just proposing a new program. He is selling a salvation. The program was called CareCourt. It stood for Community Assistance, Recovery, and Empowerment. The pitch was seductive in its simplicity. We all see the crisis on the streets. We see the severe mental illness, the psychosis, the people screaming at invisible enemies. The old system was broken. It was a fail-first system, meaning someone had to get arrested or hospitalized before they got help. CareCourt was supposed to change that. It was supposed to be a civil court process to get people with severe, untreated schizophrenia off the streets and into care before they ended up in handcuffs. The governor's team promised that this program would help between 7,000 and 12,000 people. That was the target, 12,000 souls saved from the streets. So the legislature wrote a check, a big one. $236 million to get this thing off the ground. Fast forward to today. The data is in, the money is spent, and the result is 22 people. When I first saw these numbers in the Daily Mail and the New York Post, I thought it was a typo. I thought, surely they mean 22-0. I pulled out my calculator. I checked the state reports. I looked at the filings from the Judicial Council. It wasn't a typo. So where did the money go? If we aren't spending it on housing, and we aren't spending it on doctors, and we aren't spending it on medication, where is it? This is the Tax Hack Pro breakdown of the bureaucracy tax. When the government spends $10 million per person, they aren't actually handing a homeless individual a briefcase full of cash. That money is being devoured by the administrative state. It goes to consultants who charge $500 an hour to design the logo for the program. It goes to outreach coordinators who hold meetings about how to hold meetings. It goes to IT systems that don't talk to each other. It goes to legal analysis, environmental impact reports, stakeholder engagement sessions, and training seminars for staff who have no patience to treat. It is a $250 million stimulus package for white-collar government workers, disguised as a homeless program. And here is the most frustrating part. The warning signs were there. Critics told the governor this would happen. Mental health experts said, you can't force people into treatment if you don't have the beds to put them in. County officials said, we don't have the staff. Civil rights groups said, this is a legal nightmare. But Governor Newsom didn't want to hear it. Remember his interview on 60 Minutes? The reporter asked him if he thought this would work. He didn't say, I hope so. He didn't say, we're going to try our best. He said, I don't think it, I know it. He knew it. He was absolutely certain. He said it was eminently solvable. He told us that the critics were just repeating old talking points. He said he was exhausted by the negativity. Spare me, he said. Spare me, that is what he told the taxpayers and the critics who dared to ask if this was a good use of funds. Spare me your questions. Spare me your skepticism. Just write the check and shut up. Well, Governor, the check cleared. And now we are looking at the receipt, and it says we paid the price of a private island for every single patient we helped. This brings us to the core problem with government accounting. In the private sector, in your business, in my business, in your household budget, results matter. If you hired a contractor to renovate your house, gave him $200,000, and he came back 2 years later and said, "I installed one doorknob," you wouldn't say, "Great job, thanks for trying." You would sue him. You would fire him. You would demand your money back. But in California politics, failure is just an opportunity to ask for more money. Let's look at the governor's response when this scandal broke. You would expect humility. You might expect him to say, "We messed up. The rollout was harder than we thought. We take responsibility." Nope. His response, "We learn from it. The biggest risk is that we don't take one. We learn from it." That is the $23 million lesson plan per month. They are learning. Imagine if you used that line on the IRS. Imagine if you didn't pay your taxes, and when the IRS audited you, you said, "Hey, look, I didn't pay, but I'm learning from it. The biggest risk is that I didn't try to manage my own finances." You would be in jail. But when the government wastes $250 million, it's just a learning experience. And then came the deflection. This is a masterclass in political maneuvering. When the program launched, Newsom was the face of it. It was his bold new idea. It was his solution. He took all the credit. But now that the numbers are out, now that it's a national embarrassment, suddenly he's not in charge. He told reporters, "I'm not the mayor of California, I'm the governor." Think about that statement. "I'm not the mayor." He is basically saying, "Don't look at me. Look at the counties. Look at the cities. It's their fault for not implementing my brilliant plan correctly." It is the classic bait and switch. Privatize the credit, socialize the blame. When it works, it's my program. When it fails, it's local implementation issues. If you are sick of politicians playing hot potato with your tax dollars, make sure you subscribe to Tax Hack Pro right now. We are the only channel that tracks the money all the way to the bottom of the drain. Let's dig deeper into the actual mechanics of this failure, because the devil is in the details. The care court system was supposed to allow families, first responders, and doctors to petition a court to order treatment for someone suffering from severe psychosis. The idea was that a judge would say, "You need help," and the county would be legally obligated to provide that help. Housing, medication, therapy. But here is the catch. The housing didn't exist. You can have all the judges you want. You can have all the courtrooms and bailiffs and clerks. But if a judge orders a man to go to a treatment facility, and that facility is full or doesn't exist, the order is just a piece of paper. California spent hundreds of millions setting up the bureaucracy of the court, the judges, the lawyers, the paperwork, but didn't ensure the infrastructure was there to actually treat the people. It's like building a billion-dollar train station but forgetting to buy the trains. You have a beautiful building, lots of staff selling tickets, but nobody is going anywhere. And let's talk about the 22 people number again. The governor's office is pushing back. They are saying, well, actually, hundreds of people have engaged with the system voluntarily, so the number is higher. Okay, let's play that game. Let's say the number is 600, as they claim in their damage control press releases. Let's say 600 people engaged with the system. $236 million divided by 600 is still nearly $400,000 per person. $400,000. For that kind of money, you could buy every single one of those 600 people a condo in many parts of the country. You could pay for their rent for a decade. You could hire a full-time life coach for each of them. Instead, that money went to engagement. It went to outreach. It went to the system, not the solution. This is the fundamental flaw in how California, and increasingly the federal government, approaches problems. They believe that spending money is the same thing as solving the problem. They measure success by inputs, how many billions did we allocate, rather than outputs, how many people are actually off the street. In any other industry, this would be fraud. If a charity collected $236 million to feed the hungry and only fed 22 people, the FBI would raid their offices. The executives would be indicted. But in government, it's just another Tuesday. And we need to talk about the timing of this. This isn't happening in a vacuum. This is happening while California is facing a massive budget deficit. The state is cutting funding for schools. They are cutting funding for public safety. They are raising gas taxes again. They are floating the idea of a mileage tax to track where you drive and charge you for it. They are squeezing you for every penny, claiming they don't have enough revenue. And at the exact same time, they are taking the revenue they do have and incinerating it on programs that fail 99.8% of the time. That is why this matters to you, even if you don't live in California. Because this governor wants to take this model national. He is traveling the country, touted as a future presidential contender. He wants to make America California. He wants to bring this level of financial efficiency to the federal budget. Imagine the Department of Defense run like Care Court. Imagine Social Security run like this. Sorry, we lost your retirement fund, but we learned from it. The biggest risk was not trying. It is a terrifying prospect. Let's look at the broader context of California's homeless spending. Since Governor Newsom took office, the state has spent roughly $24 billion on homelessness. $24 billion. And in that same time period, the homeless population has increased. If you spent $24 billion to fix a leaky roof, and the roof was leaking more when you finished, would you hire the same roofer again? Would you give him another $1 billion because he promised he learned from it? Of course not. But that is what the voters and taxpayers are being asked to do. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. California's approach to homelessness is the most expensive insanity in human history. They focus on housing first models that cost nearly $1 million per unit to build. They create complex legal frameworks like Care Court that get bogged down in red tape. They refuse to enforce laws against public camping or drug use, creating an environment where treatment is optional and chaos is permitted. And when anyone points this out, when anyone says, hey, maybe we should try something else, they are met with arrogance. Spare me. Your compassion is not superior to ours. We know it works. The arrogance is the most dangerous part. Because if you are arrogant, you don't correct course. You don't admit mistakes until it is too late. You double down. Governor Newsom is doubling down. He is expanding Care Court to more counties. He is asking for more money. He is insisting that the momentum is building. Momentum. 22 people in the pilot program is not momentum. It is a standstill. What could we have done with $236 million? Let's put on our Tax Hack Pro hats and look at the opportunity cost. With $236 million, you could have given 1,000 small businesses a $236,000 grant to hire local workers, fixed thousands of miles of crumbling roads without raising the gas tax, provided full-ride college scholarships to thousands of low-income students. Or, if you really wanted to help the homeless, you could have built basic, safe shelter beds for thousands of people at a fraction of the cost, instead of creating a legal maze that serves almost no one. But the government doesn't think about opportunity cost. It's not their money, it's yours. And that is the ultimate hack, realizing that the system is designed to feed itself, not to serve you. So, what is the takeaway here? What do we do with this information? First, we demand accountability, real accountability. Not we learned from it, but here is who was fired. Here is the money we are returning to the general fund. Here is the law we are repealing because it didn't work. We need to stop accepting good intentions as a substitute for good results. I don't care if a politician means well. I care if they do well. If I hire a surgeon, I don't care how compassionate he is. I care if he knows how to operate without killing me. We need to treat government spending with the same scrutiny we treat our own checkbooks. Second, we need to share this information. The mainstream media often glosses over these failures. They report the launch of the program with fanfare. Governor announces bold new plan, but they bury the results on page 10. They don't want to ruin the narrative. That is why channels like Tax Hack Pro exist. We dig up the bodies, we show you the receipts, but we can't do it alone. We need you to share this video. Send it to your friends, send it to your family, send it to that uncle who thinks the government just needs a little more funding to fix everything. Show them what $10 million per patient looks like. This isn't about Republican versus Democrat. It's about competence versus incompetence. It's about math versus fantasy. There are Democrats in California who are furious about this. There are independents who are disgusted. This is a bipartisan issue. Waste is the enemy of everyone. As we move into the next election cycle, you are going to hear a lot of promises. You are going to hear beautiful speeches about compassion and purpose and bold new ideas. When you hear those speeches, remember the number 22. Remember the $236 million. Remember the spare me. And ask yourself, can we afford to let them learn on our dime anymore? We are watching a state with the highest potential in the world being drained dry by a parasitic bureaucracy that has forgotten who it works for. It works for you, or at least it's supposed to. If you're tired of the waste, tired of the excuses, and tired of the gaslighting, make sure you are part of our movement. Subscribe to Tax Hack Pro. We are going to keep exposing the financial truth, no matter who it upsets. Let's recap the numbers one last time, just so they burn into your memory. Program, Care Court. Budget, $236 million. Results, 22 court-ordered plans. Cost per result, $10.7 million. Governor's response, I'm not the mayor. It is the most expensive game of hot potato in history, and you know what the saddest part is? Those 22 people probably didn't even get $10 million worth of care. They probably got a few meetings, some paperwork, and maybe a temporary bed. The vast majority of that money didn't go to the patients, it went to the process. That is the California way. The process is the product. The suffering is just the justification for the budget request. So the next time you pay your taxes, when you see that chunk taken out of your paycheck, or you pay that extra dollar at the gas pump, just remember, you aren't paying for roads, you aren't paying for schools. You are paying for a bureaucrat to sit in a meeting and discuss how to learn from burning your money. We are going to stay on this story. We are going to track where the next tranche of money goes, because they are asking for more. They always ask for more. Don't let them get away with it in the dark. Shine a light on it. I want to hear from you in the comments. Do you live in California? Have you seen the results of this spending on your streets? Or do you live in another state and worry that this California model is coming to a town near you? Drop a comment below. Let's get a conversation started that the governor can't ignore. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe to Tax Hack Pro. It helps us grow, it helps us investigate, and it sends a message that we are watching. Until next time, keep your wallet close and your skepticism closer. This is Tax Hack Pro signing off.